Okay guys, I'm not even sure whether you can hear me or not, and this is a real quick video. I just want to put this out there. Somebody watching might actually have an answer for me. I'm a little bit stuck with this one, believe it or not. So what we're looking at here is we've got a Honda CB1000R 2009. So what we're looking at there, the bottom trace is the injector firing, and the top trace is the primary winding of the ignition coil. So basically we're looking at this, let's get a little pointy thing. So what we're looking at here, this is a spark line, so this is a coil firing, this is a spark plug actual burning, and this is the end of the spark here, and then this is the injector opening, and that's the back EMF of the injector closing. Anyway, this isn't a lesson for that. So I've got this weird problem. So if I turn it off, right, now then, hopefully it'll do it. If I try and start it, so I'll crank it. Didn't really do it that time. What will happen is it'll crank. We're getting an injection pulse, but we're not getting a trigger for the coil. When we eventually get the coil to fire, or get a signal for the coil, it will actually run. But you can crank it for ages. And if you notice, I've got the scope triggering off the... I can't speak. I've got the oscilloscope triggering off the fuel injector, so it's scanning every cycle. But there's no spark there, look, at all. Just don't understand it. My initial thought was get it so it just cranks and doesn't go. Fuck me, there's interesting. Now I've got no injection pulse either. So there you have it, weird problem. Now my initial thought was, oh, it's going to be a crank sensor. The ECU's not seeing a clean signal from the crank sensor, which is behind this cover here, and it's not firing the coil or the injector. But the signal out of the crank sensor is all right. It looks, you know, it's got the right amplitude. It might be a little tiny bit noisy. I don't know, it's a weird one. The coil's got power all the time. It just doesn't, it's like the ECU doesn't turn on or something. Let's try it one more time. So I don't know, anybody any ideas? I'll just show you what the crank position sensor looks like. Apart from that, that's this video done. Right, okay, so for those of you that are interested, this is top trace's ignition coil, but a slightly different time base. So we can see the crank signal, which is on the bottom. So the bottom one is the crank position sensor. So, I mean, it's a little bit noisy maybe. And it's definitely noisier when it cranks. So if I show you the crank signal as it cranks, it stayed on the screen because there's no trigger, but as I crank it, that will go away. And watch the crank signal at the bottom as I crank. Can you fucking believe it starts now? Got the wrong fucking time base now, haven't we? And see if I can do this without messing up the less edits in the video. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Trigger, you bar steward. Oh, hang on a minute, we're on the wrong channel, aren't we? Oh my god. What am I doing? I want that one. I want... No, 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 no. Seriously, you're going to make me put a cut in this video? What am I doing? Right, I'll come back in a second. Let's try again. So I've got it triggering on the on this bottom waveform, which is the crank position sensor now, which is why it's jumping around a little bit, because it can't find an exact trigger point. Right, so there's the crank signal, crank position sensor signal on the bottom. I turn it off and then crank it. See, that looks alright to me. I know it's difficult to, obviously as it's firing, as it's trying to start, the crank speed is changing. But to me, that seems as though it should work alright. Anyway, let me know what you think.